Warning, the following contains spoilers for 1883's Season 1 finale killed off its most important character, and while the death is tragic, it was necessary in order to move the story of the Duttons in a worthwhile direction. That character is Elsa Dutton, Isabel May, the daughter of Margaret, Faith Hill, and James Dutton, Tim McGraw, the founders of the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. Elsa was the main protagonist of the Yellowstone prequel series. The setup to Elsa Dutton's death began when she was shot with a poisoned arrow during an attack on the caravan. This scene was previewed in the pilot episode of 1883, and then fully fleshed out in 1883 Season 1, Episode 9, Racing Clouds. After a band of fierce Lakota warriors found their settlement destroyed and their families murdered, they found 1883's caravan of settlers traveling away from the scene of the crime. Though the settlers had nothing to do with the massacre, 1883's Lakota chief, Takala Black Elk, logically assumed that the caravan is responsible for the slaughter. However, the horse thieves who defiled the Lakota settlement were actually elsewhere and were even killed by James, Thomas, LaMonica Garrett, and Shea Brennan, Sam Elliott, for the Lakota. The misunderstanding resulted in most of the caravan getting brutally slaughtered and Elsa taking a poisoned arrow to the liver. What happened to Elsa Dutton in the 1883 finale? Elsa made it to Fort Casper, but the resident doctor is rude and unable to help Elsa, whose infection has progressively gotten worse. Shea then found out that Fort Casper was being run by the Wyoming Stockgrowers Association, which employed the horse thieves they killed earlier, so they left quickly and headed north to Montana. Meanwhile, James and Margaret agreed to settle the land wherever Elsa dies. An indigenous man then pointed James to Paradise Valley, where she and Elsa rode for Elsa to pick her own grave. By 1883 Season 1's ending, 1883's Elsa Dutton, the show's protagonist and narrator, finally succumbed to the infection and died. Why does Elsa die in 1883? It was neither the Lakota nor the Duttons who caused Elsa Dutton's death in the 1883 finale. The Lakota warriors reacted logically to the situation. During the late 1800s, the westward expansion of America was enabled by the Louisiana Purchase, which gave white settlers legal precedent to not only claim indigenous American lands but to do so by any means necessary, which often included displacing and slaughtering indigenous settlements. The Lakota were simply defending their lands and people from white colonists who have been slaughtering indigenous Americans even before the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. In short, Elsa Dutton's death can only truly be blamed on the white genocide of indigenous America. Elsa's final fate is a reminder that 1883 is based on the true stories and real lives of settlers in the late 19th century, however uncomfortable those true stories may be. How 1883 Season 2's Bass Reeves story will build on Elsa's 1883 Season 2 is yet to be assigned an official release date, but the story for the second season centers around Bass Reeves, the first black deputy U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi. Though set in the same era, 1883 Season 2's retelling of Bass Reeves' real story pushes Sheridan's neo-Western universe toward further exploring early racial politics in the country, which is an extension of the first season's examination of how the westward expansion of America trampled over entire indigenous nations. The same can be said from 1883 Season 1, but what makes the second season different is that Bass Reeves was a real historical figure whose ability to speak various indigenous languages made him crucial to peace efforts following his installation as a federal U.S. Marshal in 1875. According to historic accounts of Bates Reeves' real life, he was also a fast draw who killed 14 men and took down over 3,000 criminals without ever really getting hurt himself, all while raising a family of 10 children. Though it seems more myth than history, the details of Bates Reeves' life are verifiable historical facts that went on to inspire the many cowboys, heroes, and leading men of mid-20th century classic westerns. In turn, these heroic cowboys were clearly the inspiration for the character of Elsa Dutton herself. Elsa's death in 1883 is pivotal for Yellowstone. Elsa Dutton's death in 1883 had to happen in order to close the story of how the Duttons found Paradise Valley, which is ultimately a lesson in the dark, cruel history of white America, from which Taylor Sheridan borrows the conflicts that drive his neo-Western universe. In fact, the circumstances of Elsa's death not only foreshadow the tensions between the Duttons and the Broken Rock Indian Reservation in Yellowstone, but also potentially spoiled the ending of Yellowstone Season 5. This is because prior to Elsa's death, the location of Paradise Valley was revealed to James by an indigenous man, who later warned James that his people will take the land back after the Duttons have owned it for 7 generations, to which James replied that after 7 generations, they can have it back. In the 1883 finale, Elsa Dutton's fate answered the question of what the family had to give up in order to stake their claim on the land, revealing why the Duttons have such a deep connection with Paradise Valley. It's also crucial to remember that Elsa wasn't just the protagonist, she was also 1883's narrator. Elsa was the heart and soul of the show, and her fate encapsulates the social commentary and overarching themes of not just 1883, but the rest of Taylor Sheridan's neo-Western universe.
My heart returns to you, dinner, you were